else with you. I don't want nobody
else. Back to my channel, and I'm sorry I haven't been on here for a while, but I've just been busy with school and kids, and so it's been so hard for me to upload. And you know, I'm just trying to get in the rhythm of things. Like, this channel has been new, but I'm trying to be consistent, but it's been a struggle, you know what I'm saying, with 4 kids and trying to do videos is hard, but I'm really gonna try to stay consistent and get back at it. But today I wanted to come on here and I wanted to talk about, like, is being too strict a problem as a parent? And the reason why this was like really like something that I wanted to talk about was because me and my friends have been talking about this, and especially with me having teenagers now, it's really to the point where you have to really find like a common ground and figure out what's going to be the discipline for your teens, because they really will try you right now. Like, this is the trying time. And mama, sorry. Because I see, okay? So it's like, what is too strict and what is not too strict? I feel like there's pros and cons with both of the method, not being so strict and being too strict. I think when you be too strict, you run the risk. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I hit on my point. But okay, so when you're being too strict, I feel like you run the risk of your kids ending up hating you. Like, oh my god, my mama's always on me, I hate her, blah, blah, blah. So you go through these teen years where your kid hates you because you're too strict, right? And everything they want to do is like a no or whatever, or you just have limitations to what they can and can't do. So these are the years that they hate you. You run that risk, right? And then also, you also run that risk of your kids just being codependent on you. Like, they can't think, they can't breathe, they can't do anything without you because of the fact that you sheltered them so much. You want them to grow up, you want them to have some kind of street smarts, you want them to have book smarts, you want them to have that all in a package so when they go out in the world they can survive. But you run that risk of, when you're too strict and too sheltering, that they just depend on you. So that's another like con. Also run the risk of the fact that they might lie to you. They might tell you, oh, I'm here, when I'm really there. And that can be a dangerous thing, because if something happens to them while they're there and you thought they was here, first of all, you wouldn't even know where to look, or you know, you wouldn't even have known that they were there. And you know, so that's a dangerous thing in itself. And I mean, I know for me, when I was younger, I for sure lied about a couple of places where I said I was going to be and I wasn't. And I just think back at how much cop covered me, because, you know what I'm saying, I could have really been hurt or something, just being in places I had no business being, really. And so I don't want that for my kids. Like, I want them to be able to come to me and be honest, and that we have that kind of relationship that you can tell me you want to go here and I can tell you what I think and we can go from there, but not to lie and be like you're here when you're really there. That's so dangerous. And so those are like the cons of being too strict. But the cons of being too lenient is the risk of them being out of control, not being able to control them now because you let them go so far that they don't feel the needed consequence. And how do you pull rein now? How do you pull them back in when you have already let them go so far, you know? You also run the risk that them not really knowing boundaries or respecting boundaries at that point. It's just like they keep testing the edges because they don't have consequences, and then they might end up really getting hurt, you know what I'm saying? Then you might be in jail or whatever the case may be because you pushed your boundaries way too far. And so therefore it's hard for you to control them, it's hard for the school to control them. Then what? Who's going to control them next? And you don't want the system to control them. So you know, that's a whole nother issue. So just looking at those cons, I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, God, what is an healthy parenting relationship with your teens look like? I mean, like, I'm new at this, you know what I'm saying? I tell my kids all the time, like, I'm new at this. You know, I believe in, first and foremost, that you talk with your kids. and you could talk to them like they're adults. You don't have to pity party and do all this other stuff. I think we don't have enough conversations with our kids as parents. And I come to them and I talk to them and I'll be real. This is my first time dealing with teens, so I'm learning too. But at the same time, I'm your mom, not your friend. So there is some things that I'm gonna do that you're not gonna like, and those are the type of conversations that I do have with them. So I'm just like, okay, well, what does this healthy balance look like? And anytime I want to know or have questions, I always try to go to the Bible, because it's no better information that can come from anything but from God. You know what I'm saying? So I'm asking God, okay, what is it? So I looked up some things on like parenting in the Bible, and so I'm going to go over a couple of scriptures, and then I'll just give I'll give my version of what I think a healthy relationship looks like through the scriptures that I read. So the first scripture that I'm going to read is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Okay, so it says, love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and it always preserves. And when I look at this scripture, I know like most of the time when we think of Corinthians 13, we think of love, and that's kind of like, a relationship love. But at the same time, this love is for the love that Jesus has for us. It's the love that we have for our kids. Just like Jesus has unconditional love for us, most parents have unconditional love for their kids. It's the same kind of love. And I just was going over some of these things, and looking at like, love is patient, love is kind. So you have to be patient and you have to be kind with your kids when they're doing wrong. And it's hard. It is hard when your teenager is being disrespectful from what you deem disrespectful, or doing things that they know they have no business doing, to be loving and to be kind. It's super hard, but that's what we have to be successful, is loving and kind. They already get so much harshness from out there in the world, right? We need to be that safe place for them. And by us being a safe place, yes, we do discipline, but we discipline in love. We discipline kind. You know what I'm saying? It's times where I know that I have tore my kids down in a way that I shouldn't have done. And that's because I was angry at the moment and I let things just fly out of my mouth. So what I have been working on is, okay, I'm mad, I'm angry, let me calm down, let me step away, and let me take a minute to breathe. Then I'll come back and talk to you, and we can discuss consequences and everything after that. But that way I can express to you how it is in better terms, and that way it's not so hurtful. Another thing that my kids have been telling me is that I yell too much, right? And I'm looking and I'm knowing that yelling is not loving, right? And I should be able to communicate with them in a way that I'm not yelling at them, but I'm talking to them, and that we get a clear understanding of why this cannot happen. And since it did happen, this is the consequence. So I've been working on that as well. Just another scripture. Just gonna go into it. This other scripture will be Colossians 3:21. Okay, and it says, parents, do not come down too hard on your children or you'll crush their spirits. And that scripture just really resonates with me, because just like piggybacking off of what I just said from the other scripture, we gotta be sure that we don't crush their spirits with things that we can say that can hurt them. You know what I'm saying? When we discipline, it's times that I've yelled out things to my kids that I'm like, why I even say that. And it's like, in that moment you're mad, but you know, those words, you can apologize a million times, but you can never take it back. And so we want to be careful that we are depositing love into them and not depositing hate, and so they don't self-hate. You know, we teach them love and we teach them how to self-love. If your parents are tearing you down, then that brings on self-hate, and we don't want our kids to grow up to have that. So definitely have to be careful on when you're disciplining, how you come across to your kids. You want to not break the spirit. You do want to do it in love. And so, you know, that's a challenge. That's a challenge when you're upset. Trust me, I know. It's a challenge, but it's what we should do in order to raise healthy, independent young men and women, you know. My next scripture, and it looks like it is my last scripture, is Proverbs 13:24. And so Proverbs 13:24 says, a refusal to correct is a refusal to love. Love your children by disciplining them. And so that just goes over the whole thing. Like, we definitely have to discipline it. You definitely cannot allow your children to run wild and don't ever correct them for what they do, because if you don't correct them, if you don't discipline them, you don't love them. And that's basically what the scripture is saying. You have to discipline them, but we do want to come across disciplining them in love, disciplining them with kindness, and, you know, giving them reasons. So when I look back after all of these scriptures, what I feel like you to do to put it in practice is you need to set some ground rules with your children. You know what I'm saying? Set ground rules from the beginning. You know, I feel like every year you should have a meeting with your kids. They grow. There's new things that comes up. Every year you should have a meeting with your kids. Y'all go over things that y'all want to discuss as a family. And then these are the goals for the years. This is for the goal for this year. This is what is acceptable. This is what's not. Here are the consequences. And if you talk openly with your kids and you give them a chance to give a voice, I feel like that can open up that dialect for, you know, understanding between both of y'all. And then on top of that, you know what I'm saying, if the consequences is broken, then they already knew what is going to happen in the first place. And that way you set boundaries and rules, and then on top of that, they know consequences and you have to follow through with them. I also say that you also have to give your kids the freedom to make mistakes. I mean, you look at the relationship that we have with God. He allows us to make our own decisions as well. And you know what I'm saying, there's certain things that they definitely can't make their decisions on, and you have to take range over that. But there are things to where we can allow them to go and be free to do what they need to do, like hanging with their friends or going here without breathing on their neck, and allow them to make the mistakes that they are going to make. You know what I'm saying? And not being that over-hovering, overprotective parent, because, you know, they have to learn how to think and do on their own. I also say you have to follow through with your punishments, like I was saying before. After you set those rules, those ground rules, you need to go ahead and follow through when they break those punishments. Because if you don't follow through, then the kids will take you for a joke, and then, you know, then you're not being, you know, stern. You know what I'm saying? You're not disciplining at that point. You're just letting them do what they want to do. So you have to follow through with those punishments. And I know as parents, for us at times, it can definitely be hard to follow through. You know, tired, like, do I really feel like arguing with him to take this remote control for this game? Do I really feel like going through it? Oh my Lord, he's going to hate me. Oh, we're going to have attitudes. There's going to be so much tension in the house. But, you know, it's what you have to go through in order to, you know, get your point across. And, you know, hopefully, you know, your kids take in what you're saying, and then they'll be able to think back and make their own decisions as they get older. Also, I feel like you need to be real with your kids. I definitely take the time to be real. I tell them about my past mistakes. I don't make it seem like I was perfect as a child either. I definitely let them know how I used to be and why I'm telling you and why I know what can happen to you, because I've been down that road. I definitely explain to them and let them know that, you know what I'm saying, you're not the only one going through this. Like, I have definitely been through this, and I know how much it can suck to you right now. But at the same time, I'm doing this because I'm protecting you. I definitely don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. And I will be doing you a disjustice if I let you make the same mistakes I made, knowing that you don't have to. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely try to be as real and open with my kids as possible. And I also allow them and open up that window for them to talk to me as well and tell me how they feel. Like, I don't ever want to shut down an idea that they feel or shut down a feeling that they may feel and make it seem like it's irrelevant because I'm the parent. I definitely want to have that open mind, like, okay, you feel like this because why? And let's discuss it and let's talk about it, and then we can move forward from then. It's not necessarily being your child's friend, but it is giving your child an opening to basically express their feelings and not feel like they're so unheard. I know a lot of times that for me, it just was like I could have avoided a lot of things in my life if I would have went to my mom. And not to say that she wasn't a good mom or her doors wasn't open, but I don't know why I didn't feel comfortable going to her to talk to her. And so with that experience of mine, I'm like, I don't want that for my. I want to make sure that they are able to come talk to me, so I make sure I make it a point to let them know that, you know, they can come talk to me. I'm even I will pry in their business, just to let them know that I'm here, that there's nothing that you can't talk to me about, because I don't want the streets to teach my kids. Like, I don't want their friends to teach my kids. I want them to be able to come talk to somebody who has been there. You know what I'm saying? And maybe even if you're not comfortable talking to me, you know what I'm saying, I wanted to make it a point that you have people in your life that you feel like you can talk to who have been there, so you can really know the mistakes that your friends are just learning like you. And that's the worst mistake. That's the worst advice to get as a kid is from your friends. You know what I'm saying? No. So yeah, I just make sure that I make it a point that they know that I am there for them and that they can talk to me about certain things or whatever. So I do try my hardest to make that known. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. I hope this was very helpful to you guys. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Just leave me some comments below. Tell me some of the things that you guys do with your kids and the discipline areas that you try to incorporate. I'm always up to hearing new things and, you know, seeing what I can incorporate in my own life. I'm always room for growth, right? Thanks guys for, you know, being here with me. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.